I had a bombshell dropped on me literally just a couple of seconds ago. So let's see what the hell is going on here. Apparently, man, I don't want to put fan art in front of this. Apparently, RFK Jr. is being blamed for a mass shooting effectively in my backyard. That's great. Let's see what's going on here. Kennesaw. Okay, I can drive to Kennesaw right now, and it wouldn't take but a few percentage points away from my vehicle. A gaunt Patrick White approached his neighbor on her porch last year to deliver a warning. Coronavirus vaccines harmed him and others, and authorities were covering it up. On Friday afternoon, he fired hundreds of bullets at 6 buildings on the Atlanta headquarters of the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, forcing hundreds of workers into lockdown as gunfire bombarded the windows around them. White died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound, get cucked nerd, and his gunfire killed a responding police officer, a father of 2 children with a third on the way, law enforcement officials said during a Tuesday news conference. Jesus Christ. Okay. So I've just gotten all kinds of stuff thrown at me by Dorito, one of my moderators. So let's see what all is going on here. BNO News, 2 buildings at CDC headquarters in Atlanta hit by gunfire during an active shooter situation. It's unclear if the shooter is targeting the CDC. But yeah, it's a little more clear now that that's happening. Okay, what else do we have here? Let's go ahead and hop over here. Shelter in place has been lifted, but a police emergency continues on the Emory University Atlanta campus, according to an alert on Emory's website. Fuck! Why? Why is all of this happening? Jesus Christ. Let's see here. What else do we have here? What else do we have? Why are there so many of these things sent to me? Breaking an active shooter situation is unfolding, with rapid gunshots being fired at Emory University. Lockdowns have been initiated. Okay, what is... How fucking terrifying would that have to be? Just knowing that that's happening right next to you? Like, I grew up in Montclair, and we had stuff like this happen kind of often. You'd go to sleep and you'd hear gunshots, and that was just a thing that you would hear. But it was usually a handful of them, not hundreds of rounds. Not hundreds of rounds. Jesus. What's the next one you've got for me over here, Dorito? Active shooter in Emory, Atlanta. Okay, this is... Jesus. It just feels morbid going through all of this. All right, a DeKalb County police officer died confronting a gunman near the Emory, Atlanta campus, which is right outside the CDC. The CDC called the incident an attack on its Roybal campus, which was on lockdown for hours Friday night due to police investigation. A courageous local law enforcement officer gave their life, and another was injured after a gunman opened fire on at least 4 CDC buildings. Why are we focusing so... I get it, the law enforcement officer died, and that's tragic, but we are focusing a lot on that. What about the motivations of the actual shooter? Patrick said the officer's death comes with profound sadness. This officer responded to the call, as he was trained to do. During that incident, he received gunfire and lost his life. Rose leave behind... Like, this is, again, just focusing on the police officer. I would like to know more about the shooter and their motivations and what is happening there, as opposed to just focusing on purely tragedy. This unfolded in the 1600th block of Clifton Road, near the intersection of CDC Parkway, right in front of the CDC. Atlanta Davini says, why do you guys have this gun culture? Fuck if I know. Also, I definitely appreciate the pointed language there. Atlanta Police Chief Darren Sharabaum says they received a call about an active shooter around 4:50 p.m. and multiple agencies responded. Police on the scene were still hearing gunfire at the nearby CVS at the intersection, where Sharabaum said police found the shooter on the second floor of the CVS. The shooter had been injured by gunfire. We don't know at this time if it was from an officer, if it was self-inflicted. He was removed from the location by Atlanta Fire Rescue and Aid. He did pass at the scene. Okay. Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens said that there were windows shot in various floors of the CDC. However, no civilians were hurt. Also on the CDC's campus is a day where Dickens said 92 children were present. They are safe, and we are setting up with the CDC and all connected parties to be able to get those families reunited with their families. Let's see here. What else is going on? See, the CDC director thanked law enforcement for its prompt response, saying our top priority is the safety and well-being of everyone at the CDC. We are actively coordinating with our federal, state, and blah, 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 blah. Okay, cool. See, I was stunned at first, said Chris Reaver. DeKalb County District Attorney Sherry Boston said that her team has been in close contact with authorities about the shooting. APD requested the Georgia Bureau of Investigation to assist with the investigation. Okay, what else do we have here? Let's see. Hearing of bullet holes in a CDC colleague's office. Said, I'm hearing of bullet holes in a CDC colleague's windows. I think it's CDC motivated. This is what happens when we sow hatred of public health. This is where it comes down to an RFK thing. RFK is one cog in a giant wheel. RFK is one cog in a giant wheel of hatred being aimed at healthcare officials. Let's see here. Davinia says it should be that if you want to own a gun, you have to have mandatory mental tests every 6 months. No, fuck that. Fuck that, because all that you have to do for that to be used against people who need to be allowed to be armed is you just need to engage in red flag laws. All you have to do is call being trans a mental illness, and now suddenly being trans means you can't have a gun to defend yourself from people. Also, contrary to popular belief, we actually have done a lot of studies on mass shootings and have found that in only, like 3 to 5% of them, did the person have what we would call compromised mental health? I'm sorry, but no, mental health checks do not do jack shit in regards to gun violence. As far as I understand, and I could be wrong, but as far as I understand, we don't have data that suggests that that will fix anything. In fact, I would argue it would make things even worse, because then people who are able to hide their issues with people and society are able to get guns, and then people who are not able to hide them, like people who are autistic, cannot get guns, even if they need them for self-defense. Davinia says, I meant tests to catch if someone has suicidal thoughts. Yeah, again, do you want to know which group of people have suicidal thoughts more often than not? Fucking trans people. I'm sorry, that just does not seem like a workable solution. Alec Gunter says, make it like driving a basic proficiency test. A proficiency test would be way better. It would definitely be better. I don't know if it would have a causal effect on, mitigating people's, proficiency for violence. I don't know if that would do it. But let's see here. I'm not clicking a Google Maps thing, Dorito. I'm not doing that. That sounds profoundly stupid. Let's see here. There is an audio recording of people in an emergency meeting where a lot of people blame RFK. Let's see.
A source shared with me a recording of an emotional all-hands meeting for the CDC division that focuses on vaccines. It was held a day after a shooting outside the agency's Atlanta headquarters.
We're on an active shooter response.
Now, news reports have cited police as saying that the shooter, who killed a police officer during his attack, blamed the COVID vaccine for his health problems. In this meeting, employees told CDC Director Susan Monterez that they were terrified as some 40 bullets hit the building that many of them sat trapped in on Friday. One described feeling like, quote, sitting ducks. In this meeting chat, dozens of staffers named their boss, HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., citing his years of vilifying the CDC and spreading vaccine misinformation.
So if the shooter blames the CDC for his health problems, blames the COVID vaccine for his health problems, and wants to take out his aggression on those people, then the people who spread vaccine misinformation are the ones responsible for how this person acted. Now, it's very hard to find a specific causal link, but this is the root of stochastic terrorism. This is the root of stochastic terrorism. You get people to believe that someone needs to stop this, someone needs to save everybody from the big bad CDC, and eventually one lone wolf gunman is going to think that it might as well be him. Once upon a time, the FBI used to categorize these people as lone gunmen, lone wolf syndrome, or whatever the hell it was. Now, more studies are being put into whether or not there are stochastic reasons this is happening. Stochastic terrorism is when somebody in a position of power, or in this case, several people in a position of power, say things out into the ether, knowing that somebody in a group of, 10 million people may act based on what they do. Much like if I say as a streamer, man, I wish that somebody, somewhere, would give me $1. Stochastically, there's a chance that somebody in my audience is going to donate $1 because I've said it. I wish somebody somewhere were generous enough to donate $1 to this stream. Alas, nobody is going to do that. And so when I say that, a bunch of people immediately have the idea in their head, well, it could be me. Well, it could be me. Well, it could be me. And then somebody does it. That's how stochastic terrorism works. Now, I know that it's weird for me to do the stochastic terrorism in the form of getting $1 donated to my stream, but you understand the point. You understand the mechanics involved then. Literally, all you are doing is saying something into the aether as a person in a position of authority or power, and if enough people listen to it, somebody might be activated by it.
As part of the climate that they said turned them into targets. One said, quote, "This is the culmination of ongoing animosity towards CDC in the work that we do, not a one-off incident." Another said, quote, "We will not be safe until they stop their attacks against us." Here's what they're talking about.
Lenari says, right, stochastic is different from random. No, stochastic is random. Stochastic means it's randomly determined, having a random probability distribution pattern. You can analyze it statistically, but you cannot precisely predict it. Something is stochastic in that it is random. That is what it is. It is outcomes based on random probability.
Kennedy is an anti-vaccine activist lawyer, and he has baselessly accused the CDC of corruption, said its vaccine work was fascism and child abuse, and falsely said that vaccines were to blame.
Okay, apparently Clueless Expert just decided to call my fucking bluff and donated $100 to the stream. Jesus Christ. Also, thank you. Also, Jesus. Also, fuck you. Oh, woo. That's what you get for that. That's what I get for that. That's the canonical price of that shit. I am greatly appreciative, and also, this is what happened. Look, just prove it. Stochastic terrorism is real. Yeah, Alec Gunter says stochastic, raising the chance of a random action. Yes, it is still random, but you are tilting the scales. CJ Sona says, I mean, technically he did donate $1. You're right, he donated 100 of those. I say he, but I actually don't know the gender of Clueless Expert. So they donated $100. Also, someone else just tipped $3.33. Thank you. I appreciate it. That is 3.5 stochastic terror, 3 1/3 stochastic terrorisms.
For everything from SIDS to autism, and that the CDC was covering it up. These kind of conspiracy theories have fueled harassment and threats against public health workers and officials for years. At the time of the meeting, Kennedy hadn't publicly addressed the shooting. His last personal post on X showed him fishing in Alaska. But later that morning, from his official account, he posted, quote, "We stand with CDC and, quote, remain united in our mission to protect and improve the health of every American."
Yeah, of course, he has to say that. Also, Old Gus, thank you for being on the right side of history and donating 500 channel points for an OWO. Thank you. I appreciate that. This is wild This timeline is wild to me, and I hate it. I really do hate this timeline more than you know. So, okay. RFK Jr. and multiple other people as well over time increase the probability that somebody is going to try to be a hero and do something about the big bad CDC. And after they've done something about the big bad CDC, you then try to wash your hands and absolve yourself. Are you, like, completely socially inept when you think that as a person with a position of power from a powerful family, mind you, to just, like, absolve yourself of any wrongdoing here? What's he going to do? Sit there and go, actually, I think that the CDC is corrupt and someone should do something about them. But not that thing. Don't do that thing. That thing makes me look bad because I said that somebody could construe what I said as being a motivating factor for a shooter or something. In before I motivated a shooter or something. Now, do I think that RFK is directly responsible? No, that would be naive. But do I think that he holds part of the blame? Absolutely. Absolutely. Him, Trump, basically everybody who is part of the current regime that spends their time demonizing science 100% deserves the ire of everybody in this chat and everybody who's viewing. Though I do want to know from you, what are your opinions? Let me know in the comment section below, because where I'm sitting, this is just profoundly sad. It's sad that we have a person in a position of authority who has definitely had a soft hand in violence that has been taken against experts. Experts who he and many of his colleagues have demonized over the years. This is the end result of the death of expertise, by the way. If you've never read that book, I definitely suggest you do, but the TLDR is effectively the plot of Idiocracy. What happens when you have a society where people do not value expertise and instead value the opinions of, say, celebrities? This is actually what happens when you listen to your favorite YouTubers and podcasters instead of listening to people who are actually good science communicators or are scientists or are engineers or are people who actively have to engage in these sciences in a professional manner. When you listen to people like, hell, even me, or Joe Rogan, or any of these people, not that I can be in the same breath as somebody with that many views, but when you listen to people like us, instead of experts, then this is the end result. Also, Professor Test, thank you for the 100 bits for the stochastic. Oh no. Jesus. Old Gus says, you know, if you think about it, posting bounties is stochastic law enforcement. Yes, it is. It is. You are hoping that somebody somewhere will do something about the big bad person that you've put the bounty on. And if somebody just happens to get hurt in the process, who cares? All you were doing was offering some money. It wasn't your responsibility for how it happened. What the hell was that? What even was that? That's, you know what just happened to me there is how I feel about the RFK situation. There's a level of responsibility that he bears, and that is gross. Hey, thanks for making it to the end of the video. I really could not do any of this without all of you. Those of you watching, and especially those of you who support me on Patreon. I wanted to go ahead and take a minute to thank all of you who do that, because with YouTube being what it is these days, I really cannot do this full time without the support from each and every one of you. Those people would be Red Joker, Purple Poundini, Jemshin, Britzkrieg, Jupe the Malignant, Michael, Ravalern, Mabbity Babbity, Astral Frontier, Tales of Atonement, Nixie Chan, Kiri Artemis, Limor Pinku, Love Bunny Games, Victorian Alchemist, I'm not saying the last part of that, and you know that, Aurora, Leela Ururaka, Arcton Arclacier, Kiratorian, Dren Hadamata, Jordan M, John L, Lord Bleck, Smiling Game Master, and Fireshard. Thank you so very much. But since you're here, why not go ahead and try watching another one? There should be one that's on the screen right now. And if you are a patron of mine, I wanted to go ahead and thank you again for all of your support. There is still a video you could press, though, if you'd like. I would appreciate it just a little bit.